Welcome.
Hello, and welcome to Mary Elizabeth Jones's Variety Hour.
We're head over heels. We're head over heels and doing a great job for you.
Yes.
We'll do anything for you.
Yes.
I think the sky is falling.
I think it is.
You know, David Letterman once did a whole show like this, and it was as popular. He did almost the whole show like this.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Peter Ustinov was the guest. You can still find it on YouTube. And as a result of even David Letterman failing, it's time to do it the right way. All right, Here we go. What's the name of the show?
Mary Elizabeth Jones's Variety Hour.
That's right. I'm Kaye Lazar, and welcome on a beautiful day. And everything's good. And yes, we're having a good time here.
Yes.
Let me get this up. Yeah, that's a little better. Welcome to beautiful downtown Burbank. More people know about Burbank, I think, through Laughing than any other show.
Yeah.
Now we're in an undisclosed location. Hey, you know, our locations are pretty wild. We do it from here a lot. The park. But sometimes we do it by the riverside.
Yeah.
And sometimes we basically anywhere that has a picnic table.
Yeah.
We can do a show. A friend of mine, sadly, Susan Highsmith. Her mother passed away last year, and so did her sister passed away maybe a year before that. And they had at Bird Park, they had a memorial service for them.
Yeah.
And the reason why she picked as the last remaining person in her family was she saw this show and she liked the where we did it from, Bird Park.
I must have inspired her. So
Yes.
I feel important. I feel important now.
Yes, we inspire everybody.
Yes.
We have a very noble show.
Yeah, I inspire everybody wherever I go. So.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah.
I have friends that like Gorgeous George. He inspires everybody. Somehow, he inspires you to do better in life when you watch him. Nah, I'm just kidding. No, in fact, George is coming back with a show soon, and we'll be coming back with a TV show soon. So, I mean, not an internet show. So, and we're always we never have a final show, a final episode. I made a Super 8 film in college, and I kind of felt when I was making it was my last film. And to be honest with you, really haven't made a film since as a director and a writer. But it was so hard, Super 8 and editing. And I mean, It took like a whole semester just to edit.
Yeah.
Just to edit a 20-minute film. Cut it and look at it and everything. This is before video and everything. And you were going to talk about something. You went somewhere or you did something. Didn't you tell me? Because I did plenty. No. All right. Well, while you're thinking, let's see. I had a very exciting time recently. I went to the GalaxyCon.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Comic Con.
Yeah.
As a lot of people call it.
I would love to go there next year.
Yeah. Well, there's always one somewhere. It's weird that you go, no matter where they have them, people show up for it.
Yeah.
And there's one in Raleigh, and there's one in Charlotte, and there's one in Columbus, Ohio. And then you go to, and I think they're like amusement parks. There's always one somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a traveling show, meaning that it seems like it'll spend a weekend at a city and then pack up like a circus and move to another town and with all the people involved and everything. A lot of celebrities.
Yeah.
I kept it a secret that I was going to it. I was kind of, in a way, before it happened, kind of embarrassed that I was going to it. But I went and I had a wonderful time. 25,000. They said 25,000 people were there.
Wow.
In the day I was there, and a lot of people. I've read reviews on the internet. It was like my first time there, but I read reviews on the internet that it was the worst one ever. And the reason why it was too many people.
Yeah.
But I always find when there's a lot of people, that's the good thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I was embarrassed. I wanted that there was like a few celebrities there I wanted to see, and which I'll tell you in a moment. But what happened was I realized as I'm getting older and my tastes are changing and everything, I'm running out of celebrities I want to see. A lot of celebrities I've already seen. Most of the ball players, most people in the theater, in the opera, and in the music, and athletes, politicians.
Yeah.
There's always new politicians that strike your fancy that you might vote for, but I mean, I'm not saying I'm running out of them. It's just that I've seen so many good ones that
Right.
it's almost like buying a tie like this one.
Right.
Don't you love this tie?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I got this in New York.
Ah.
People ask me where I buy my ties. I say everywhere. I'm always looking for ties.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll see a beautiful tie, blue tie with white polka dots or
Yeah.
something, and I say, wait a minute, I have about 12 of these at home. Why do I need another one? You don't really wear out ties like you wear out shirts
Yeah.
and underwear and stuff. So anyway, so I went to the Comic-Con, and I didn't tell anybody. I told a few people, I mean, that were important that they know that I go. And I went, because I used to laugh that a lot of our enemies love to go to Star Trek conventions and everything. And here I was at a Star Trek convention. I was at an ultimate one. Got to meet William Shatner.
Oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
jealous. I want to meet him.
You want to meet him? Years ago, I was in France, and at the south of France, the same weekend that Marc Chagall died, and he was 98 years old, and they had a big fuss about him dying. And I said, like you said, I wish I could have met him. And then I thought to myself, well, he waited as long. He was 98 years old. He waited as long as he could to meet me.
Wow.
I like to say that a 92-year-old William Shatner's been waiting a long time to meet me. Well, finally he met me.
Wow.
So anyway, I'll tell you about more of that in a moment. But I found out that even though you have to pay to see a lot of these people,
Yeah.
this is how it works. A lot of these people that I have seen and have met, I waited on film sets. I waited after shows. I waited at the stage door on Broadway shows and stuff. And I met them for free, but I paid like $100, $150 for a ticket to see them. And there's not a good chance that I would even meet them. This time I knew I was going to meet them.
Yeah.
So I just, in other words, cut out the garbage and just meet the person, which is what I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yes. So I went with my nephews. And let me tell you something. If you ever, a lot of times when you get, it's called a meet and greet. When you have a meet and greet with somebody, sometimes they say you could be there with up to 3 other people. Yourself and 3 other people, or always find someone to be with you at these things. All right, because you're going to wait in a lot of lines, and you'll want someone to talk to, especially lines to meet these people. And they just kind of herd you through, and you don't have that long to talk to the people. So I went with my nephews. I went with 2 of them, and we had a great time. We had a great time doing our own stuff. But then the first things we did were meet. The first thing we did was meet William Shatner. So we meet William Shatner, and I said, "Let me do the talking." We may not have much time so everyone was saying happy. I saw the 2 or 3 people before me, and they said happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, and I said, "Shalom, Bill." William Shatner is Jewish. A lot of people, like to don't like to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
We live in this anti-Semitic world. He's probably the most famous Jew from Canada now that I think about it.
Wow.
There's Seth Rogen. There's David Steinberg. There's Lorne Michaels. And there's Mortimer Zuckerman, the billionaire. And then there's William Shatner. I can't think of anyone more popular than William Shatner. So I listen to this. My dad is actually older than William Shatner. And I saw him that morning, and I said, when I see Bill, I'm going to send him your best. That was what I was going to say to him. That's what I did say to him. And I said to him, Bill, my dad, who's older than you, sends you his best. He saw you in the 1950s on Broadway in The World of Susie Wong.
Wow.
Now that was if you know anything about the world of Susie Wong, it was a Broadway show, very big hit in the late 1950s, and it had I don't know who was the woman in it, but the movie had Nancy Kwan, and the movie had William Holden, who was a bigger star than William Shatner.
Wow.
Now, William Shatner, this was before Star Trek and everything, and a lot of people, William Shatner was the top Shakespearean actor in the early 1950s from Canada. And when he came to America, unless you were in Canada, you didn't really know a whole lot about him. You saw him on TV shows. You saw him he's done a few Twilight Zone episodes, and he's in A Judgment at Nuremberg, I think in 1960. That's the only things I could think of, well before Star Trek. So he started making stuff around time of Star Trek, like a big budget film for Roger Corman called The Intruder, and he also made that one film in Esperanto called Incubus, which is really weird. Seeing William Shatner speaking a different language in his own voice, and but anyway, getting back to William Shatner, it was rather disappointing for him not to play in the movie version, and the movie version stank. It was terrible, and it had William Holden, who was usually a pretty good actor, but this one he looked like he just phoned it in. He might have been drunk most of the time. He died sadly of drinking too much, and so when I told him that my dad saw him in the world of Susie Wong, he said, "That's great."
Yeah.
We didn't have a whole lot of conversation. Most people say, I like you in Star Trek, I like you in Rescue 911.
Yeah. I remember when he did Rescue 911.
Yeah.
I was like in middle school when that came out.
He's never out of work, William Shatner, and he's in very good shape. And he looked very good. He wasn't moving around. He wasn't like stumbling around or anything. He actually made news a few days before I saw him on his birthday that he didn't think he had much longer to live, thinking that 92 is time to pack it in. But let me tell you something. And I tell this to old people all the time, especially people in their 80s and 90s. I said, listen, you made it this far. There's no reason why you can't do it for another 80 years.
Right.
I'd like to think with technology, we were going to live longer and longer. I heard the other day on some talk show that it used to be in the Bible, you should live to be 70. Most people didn't live past 40 or so in the Bible, or even in those days. And or even up to recent times. But 70, this is, written, 2,000 years ago, or 6,000 years ago. I don't know when the Bible was written.
The Bible, I think, was written about,
6,000 years ago?
Yeah.
The Old Testament was, anyway. And so even then they said that's what you should shoot for, 70 years old, which is a long time without television or cars or travel.
Yeah. Right.
Just wars and disease. Right. That's all you had in those days.
Right.
But now, people live to be 70. Now it's considered young.
Yeah.
You may have, if you retire at 70, you may have another 20 years of retirement.
Yeah.
Of just doodling around the house.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, now everyone's shooting for 100. You live to be less than 100, you're considered a failure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My aunt lived to be 88, and she told me, "What good is living to 100 if you're not in good shape for it?"
Right.
if you can't live life to on
Maybe
your
I
own.
think they just want to do it because so they could beat the record or something.
Beat the record. Well, that's fine. I don't mind beating records.
Yeah, me neither.
I
will live to about 100.
I'm the world's oldest juvenile delinquent. I'm the world's oldest boy wonder. Anyway, so we see. There's lines everywhere for celebrities, and then I didn't know this. These were like kind of photo. They call them photo ops.
Yeah.
But there was actually, after that, you could probably corral them and get them a picture taken at their table if you catch them. And I didn't know that, and I could have done that with other people. But Okay, I had to do it for. I wouldn't have gone to this thing if it was just William Shatner. There had to be somebody else. So John Cleese was there too. John Cleese of Monty Python, obviously, A Fish Called Wanda, of Faulty
okay.
Towers.
Yeah.
You'd know him if you saw him, if you're not
Yeah.
familiar with him. And he was great too. And I come in with my two nephews, and okay. Remember what I just said about William Shatner, about the world of Susie Wong?
Yes.
This is how you get in good with a celebrity. If you ever get a chance to meet a celebrity, if you know you're going to meet the celebrity, and I knew I was going to meet these people. Try to think of something to say to them that they don't hear that often.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see William Shatner, of course you're going to say, "I love you" in Star Trek. You know, you're going to see John Cleese, "I love you" in Monty Python. I said, so with John Cleese, and this is true. When I was in high school, I knew who John Cleese was from Monty Python, and they were trying to boost people to watch the BBC Shakespeare shows. They did all 37 Shakespeare plays on the BBC over a time of 6 years, and somewhere I think in the second year they were kind of people were losing interest in them.
Yeah.
So they tried to get big stars and stars that just don't usually cut it that
Yeah.
much. So or people that so they did The Taming of the Shrew with John Cleese as Petruchio. I forget who played
okay.
Catherine. Taming of the Shrew, of course, one of the few really funny Shakespeare plays. You always hear about Shakespearean comedies.
Yeah.
And one joke about Shakespearean comedies: how come if they're comedies, how come they're never funny?
Good question.
Yeah. Well, this is why they're not funny, and it's not anyone's fault. It's that these were written 500 years ago,
Well,
and Shakespeare may have made a point in a pun or something about a politician that was popular at the time, or make say something about it, and what would happen was the people in the groundlings at the Globe Theater would be hysterically laughing at this, and then 500 years later, we don't know what they're talking about. And the joke is that if you read like these Penguin editions of Shakespeare, they always have footnotes to tell you why it was funny or what this word means or something. And let me tell you something: nothing shoots down a joke and its humor than a footnote. But the Taming of the Shrew has a lot of slapstick and a lot of people acting weird and everything, and a shrewish woman and a very funny man, Petruchio. The best version of the Taming of the Shrew, I mean that most people would know, would be the Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton version by Franco Zeffirelli, made in the '60s, and that was very good.
yeah, I heard about that one.
Yeah. Every Shakespeare play is worth a look.
Yeah.
So I told him that you got me interested in Shakespeare as a high schooler when I saw you playing Petruchio in The Taming of the Shrew on the BBC, and PBS actually when I saw it, and he said, "You remember that? You don't remember that, do you?" I said, I remember that, and you were great." And then we said, "Let's get a picture taken." And I said, "All right."
Yeah.
And he was very happy to hear that. So that's what I. So John Cleese was great. Both of them gave lectures afterwards. In front of hundreds of people, maybe close to 1,000 people each, because they had these huge ballrooms that they and a lot of celebrities were there that had smaller ballrooms.
Yeah.
And so John Cleese, he was always my favorite Python. And let me tell you about something else about John Cleese. Was about 5 years ago, before the pandemic, he came to Richmond at the Carpenter Center. I must have paid $100 to see him and Eric Idle. And they both took turns talking, and then they did like a talking, and then they showed little videos of themselves, and then they led people in sing-alongs, Always Look on the Right Side of Life.
Oh, I love seeing that.
Oh, yeah, it was great. Well, Monty Python is always money in the bank. 3 of them are still alive. Michael Palin is still around. The other 2, Terry Jones and Graham Chapman, they're sadly gone. Yeah. But and they're not young guys; they're all in their 80s.
Yeah.
You think of them as. Let me tell you about Monty Python just a moment about it. When they were on television, and when they in America, they were already like 5 years into them, and they also the popularity of Monty Python and the Holy Grail came out around the same time, which they actually was the capper to their career. They thought this was going to be how they retire, and as a result, they became even more popular. And then they had to kind of come back and do movies and do stage shows and stuff after that.
Wow.
Mostly the same routines. So anyway, I paid close to $100 to see them. I didn't get anywhere near them. I was up in the nosebleed seats. They had microphones. I could hear them, but I couldn't really see them very well. Couldn't take any pictures very well. And then when they came to the Galaxy Con, when he came to the Galaxy Con, John Cleese, I could have been in the front row. I was in the second row, and it was well spent. It was $60 or something to buy a ticket, and I saw all these people there. Yeah. So I think, and he was actually funnier, I think, when I saw him last week than he was. He's always funny, but he was even funnier. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to see stage shows anymore. I'm just going to go to the Comic Cons and and meet them, and then meet the real people.
If I go next year, I might do the $60 ticket and meet a celebrity that I might know.
Well, yeah, there were a lot of I'll tell you who was there. I saw a lot of these celebrities. The Russian guy from Star Trek, the original Star Trek,
Sulu.
Not Sulu. He goes to these things.
Oh.
Everyone is a little different. Chekhov is his name.
Yeah.
His name is Walter Koenig.
I like him too.
And you walk by him, you say hello to him, but I didn't feel like meeting him. Now, if he was on a movie set, I'd probably feel like
yeah.
If I saw him in a play, I'd probably want to see him.
Yeah.
The guy from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, his name is Barry Bostwick.
Yeah.
He played Brad, and he was in. He had that show, that mayor show with. He was the mayor of New York with Michael J. Fox. That show, whatever that show was called, and he was. Barry Bostwick is a big deal. Barry Bostwick is a very good actor. Barry Bostwick, forget about everything else. If you meet Barry Bostwick, be sure to tell him, you were the first Danny Zuko in the original Grease, and he'll say, yes, that's what he was there. So it was good to see him. Also, he was one of the few people that wore a tie. I was dressed. Oh, let me tell you something. I was wearing you'll see in these photos. I'll try to put them in the comments. You'll see me in all these pictures wearing a tuxedo, and all these people wearing costumes. Some very great costumes. They were dressed as. I saw costumes of like the people from Bob's Burgers. They look like the whole family.
Wow.
I saw. Of course, the superheroes and the super villains. A lot of Jokers, lots of Penguins, lots of Lex Luthors and everything. I was joking. I saw a lot of guys that looked like the guy from Family Guy, but I don't think they were in costume. I think they just looked like the guy from Family Guy.
Yeah. I think you and I should dress up together.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I asked my nephews if they were going to dress up. No, I'm going to dress up myself. I'll wear a Star Trek T-shirt. I said, great.
Yeah.
But I knew that I was going to be in a lot of photos, and I wanted to wear something that will really stand out. So I wore a tuxedo, black tie. I have rules. I don't usually wear black tie on the weekends. And I don't usually wear black tie on after the sun goes before the sun goes down. But these are photos. It's all indoors. Nobody really cares. And in the pictures, if you look at them at night, then they look right. So I'm wearing a tuxedo. And when you wear a tuxedo at anywhere, when you wear a tuxedo, you always look your best when you're a man. And another thing about wearing a tuxedo is everybody moves out of the way for you. And I was able to push my way to fronts of line because they think I was an important guy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another funny thing. I went to there was all of these vendors there, and they were all selling T-shirts and little dolls of the villains and the people from Star Wars, Lord of the Rings and stuff. And they were selling everything that had to do with superheroes. Some of them were very fancy. And I was actually standing to buy. I don't usually buy a lot of souvenirs when I go to these things. I buy things that are practical. I buy like cufflinks and tie pins and neckties,
yeah,
and little pins and stuff like that. So a lot of pins that were there, but believe it or not, I didn't find any I wanted. And but I bought a pair of cufflinks with the Captain America shield on
Wow,
them,
yeah.
and I bought a because I like Captain America.
Yeah.
Well, I told you a story before about we were watching Captain America, and I
Yes.
got my dad the Bronze Star, and then at the end of the story, and then another story goes, I was struck by lightning, and I've told you that a million
Yeah.
times, and I like the Flash with the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
So I have to type in with a lightning bolt on it. So if anyone doesn't know it's the Flash or Captain America, I can give that little speech
Yeah.
that I always give.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm in line buying this stuff. This is the only thing I found that I wanted to buy, and, and some kid said, how much is this thing? And he held up some I think a badge or something, and I just turned to him and said. It's free. Just put it in your pocket and walk away. I'm. The guys who ran the thing had a sense of humor and said, he doesn't work here. It's not free. And they were laughing. And the guys, of course, the guy was oh, I thought you were the boss. He goes, and then the guy says, he is the boss. He goes, you look so official wearing that tuxedo. I said, yeah, he's doing a quality check on us. I wouldn't have let them walk out. Wait a minute, I was just kidding around.
Yeah.
But never ask me. Every time I wear a suit or something, and I go to a store, there's always like Walmart or somewhere or Target. They always say, "How much is this? How much is that?" It's all free.
They always do that to me sometimes when I'm at a store or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just a customer.
Yeah.
They always ask me questions like I work there. I'm like, do I work here? Does it look like I work here to you?
Oh. You see,
Jeez.
it's not my job to correct them.
Yeah.
I go. Let me tell you about improvisation. You never say no. It's always yes.
Yeah.
Do you work here? You ever did improvisation? You know, like whose line is it anyway, or something? Do you work here? Well, yes, I do. What? How can I help you? And that makes it funny. If I said no, get out of here, then that ends the show right there.
Yeah.
There's a rule of improvisation. In fact, I know this because one of the kings of improvisation was there, and he was the third guy. So I didn't really seek him out, but I did meet him, and I asked him a question. Dave Foley. You know, Dave Foley used to be on Saturday Night Live and a show called Kids in the Hall. He's a Canadian actor, and you know him from Kids in the Hall. He does a lot of stuff. He does the voice. He does a voice in The Bug's Life. He does one of the major voices in that Disney film.
Oh, yeah.
And and he was very nice. And I asked him about the movie he made with Pat from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Remember Pat? You couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman.
Yeah.
And Pat had a
Oh, that
girl.
movie is so funny.
Yeah. Well, Pat gets a lover, but you can't tell if that's a man or woman either.
I know.
And it's and that person is played by Dave Foley in like a blouse and a long hair, and you can't tell if it's a man or a woman.
Yeah.
And actually, Pat is played by a woman, Julia Sweeney.
Yeah.
So I asked him about Pat, and he said, "Oh, you remember that movie, Pat?" I asked him, "Tell us about Pat." He goes, "That was his first movie he ever made in like a big Hollywood production and stuff." And he was actually very happy, proud of it, though it didn't. I don't think it was that big a hit, but most films are not big hits.
I thought it was funny.
It's funny if you laugh at it. You know, it was actually after I said it, I went home and I found it streaming and I watched it again, and it was funny, and he was funny.
I like to watch
Dave
it
Foley.
again.
Dave Foley, his greatest thing he did was a show called News Radio.
Yeah.
And News Radio had Phil Hartman and Andy Dick.
Oh, yeah.
And he was joking that we'd like to get the show back again if Andy Dick could stay out of jail.
Yeah.
And if Joe Rogan, who does podcasts, he goes, could stop making millions of dollars doing podcasts and do our show again. And Fear Factor. He said, but Joe Rogan has said something kind of sad about Dave Foley. There's a movie out a few years ago called Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, and it's about a very painful divorce. And he said that is sort of based on. I think the guy who made it, Noah Baumbach, based it on his divorce with Jennifer Jason Leigh, but actually, it was. He says it was much closer to Dave Foley's divorce of his first wife, because she took him to the cleaners with a very money hungry divorce lawyer. He figured out a way that if you used to have a TV show when you were married and you were making maybe $1 million compared to like, $10,000, then she deserves the $500,000, even though that money's probably already spent by the time the divorce happened.
Yeah.
And so he was forced to pay something like 400%, four times what he was making at that time as his divorce settlement. So and then you would think a guy like that wouldn't get married again. He got married a second time and divorced her, but then he remarried the woman. I guess the divorce didn't help, didn't hurt, didn't stay. But Dave Thomas, I looked him up. He's a lot younger than the other guys I saw. He was 60.
Wow.
the like I said, Mr. Shatner was 92. Mr. Cleese was 83. You put them together, there's 175 combined years, And I didn't know, is this the last chance I'll get to see either one of them? When I saw Frank Sinatra, he pretty much retired the week I saw him.
Wow.
As a result of my seeing him.
Yeah.
He fainted on the stage, famous thing, when he came to Richmond. So you got to get these people when you can, because they, people ask me, "Are you disappointed? People you haven't seen?" I said, "Well, there are a lot of people I haven't seen, but I mean, I would have liked to have seen in his day Elvis or the Beatles when they were all together, or seen Bobby Darin.
Yeah, I would love to bet all of them back in the day.
And people see pictures of me with other people, famous people, and they always say, "You're the king of Photoshop. How did you Photoshop?" I said, "I'm not that great at Photoshop. That's why I actually have to do it the hard way. I meet these people."
I met Orlando Jones.
Orlando Jones.
I didn't get a picture with them. But I did wait for them to wait to me back. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I met OJ, which is Ice-T's son.
O'Shea.
Yeah, O'Shea.
Not OJ.
Whatever his name was.
OJ's a different guy.
I got to meet him. I didn't get a picture with him either, but at least I waved.
You meet the people. Well, now it's not so important you get the picture, because people will believe you if you meet them. Used to be famous people were at a distance, and you couldn't, there's no pictures with Cary Grant unless you're in show business. No pictures with Clark Gable unless you're in show business. Yeah. Now, if those guys were around, they'd be at at premieres and stuff, and you would meet them and stuff like that.
Just like
they'd be on talk shows and everything.
Also, I was at Universal Studios in Florida back in November.
Yeah.
This past November, and I got to. I think it was the guy that played Back to the Future.
Yeah, we talked. Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah,
Christopher Lloyd.
I got to meet him.
Got to meet him.
I don't know if it's really him or not, but I feel like it's Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
You mentioned O'Shea Jackson. Well, I met O'Shea Jackson on the set
of
the
picture.
Swagger.
Yeah. I did get a picture with Christopher Lloyd, though.
There you go. Oh, we gotta see it. Put it up. Hang it up. Swagger is a show that's coming out later this year, and
we're both in it.
We're both in it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And what happened was in Swagger, I met. They're all very nice, and believe it or not, everyone I meet is very nice.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago that the only guy I met that wasn't very nice was Chevy Chase, but then I found out he's not that nice to anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm actually in good company.
Yeah.
Gilbert Gottfried had who I met. I know everybody. You need a seance if you want to see him.
Yeah.
But anyway, Gilbert Gottfried said that always said about certain troubled people like Chevy Chase. He goes, "Well, he was always nice to me."
Yeah.
And I've met people that weren't very nice to others, but when I met them, they were very nice to me. I'm not going to mention them because I can't speak for people who had a problem with them, but if they're not, in fact, if anyone's nice to me, I'm nice to them. I'm happy to sign autographs, pose for photos.
And I did get to meet.
Say hello to me next time you see me. Say hello to me.
Yeah, I did. I was in Dipstick a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I did get to wave to a celebrity while I was on break.
All right.
Yeah, I forgot what her name was, but she was
one of the women in there. Yeah.
Yeah, she was one of the leads or something.
Yeah.
But she was really nice.
Well, what's weird is sometimes you make movies with people and or see shows.
Yeah.
Like my dad, Broadway with William Shatner. In fact, this is really weird about him. He said he was telling you. I told the story about the World Susie Wong. He goes, they should have got that guy, and I don't know his name, but he was so good on Broadway. And then I think we were watching like Star Trek, And it wasn't even the original Star. It was like the reruns of Star Trek in the afternoon. And he goes, "That's the guy. That's the guy." I said, "William Shatner?" He goes, "Yeah. Is that William Shatner? I've heard the name." He goes, "Yeah, William Shatner was the guy I saw at the World of Susie Wong on Broadway." And he was very good. A lot of people are very good stage actors. I like to think of myself as a better stage actor than a movie actor. I mean, to know me is to actually see me in person.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's, that's why I couldn't get into these virtual concerts and virtual plays during the pandemic, even though the people did their best. But I like to be there.
I like to be there too.
I like to see the people. If I were living in a big city like New York, where they had a great, theater, or London, I wouldn't even go to the movies. I wouldn't even watch television. I'd put all my money aside and go see theater
I know.
at least once a week.
Yeah, me too.
And see every show. And because a friend of mine, my friend Mick McConnell, you might see in local commercials, he told me that live theater is never boring.
I know.
It's right in front of you. You can't fall asleep in a play. And you're like on adrenaline and everything. Anyway, we have more of the show to do.
Yes.
All right. So let's take it away.
I would like to thank you all for joining in, and we're going to take a little break, and I hope you all enjoy y'all's break. God bless you.